Hello, I'm the Baron of Beanies, and welcome to the first episode of Archive Binge. Now, we're all familiar to some extent with Origin systems in Ultima, right? Wing Commander. System Shock. Bioforge. This is going to be a bit more difficult than I thought. Released in 1995, Bioforge was Origin's attempt to get on both the interactive movie and adventure game bandwagons. But this was no cheap cash-in attempt. Bioforge was a technical marvel, boasting top-of-the-line graphics, complete voice acting, and fully rotoscoped animations. For all intents and purposes, it was the Crisis of the mid-90s. If it was such a marvel then, why haven't you heard of it, you ask? Well, being the Crisis of the mid-90s, it couldn't run smoothly on a vast majority of computers. And so, despite rave reviews, it sold horribly and the already in development sequel was quickly and quietly canned. Okay, now that everyone's on the same page, let's take a look at this game and see if it still holds up today. Graphics-wise, being an early 3D game, it looks horrible compared to games now, of course, but still boasts a few impressive features that wouldn't be common until years later in games. Like smooth character models and actually distinguishable digits on the characters' hands. Now, we know that last one doesn't sound like much, but remember, this is what characters' hands used to look like in the late 90s. The voice acting is actually great, with the only weak link being your character's voice, and that's really more due to poor writing than anything else.
Eat life, you stupid machine.
Here's where the game begins to hit a few more of its major speed bumps. To begin with, the controls have not aged well. You move around using the oh-so-fantastic tank control scheme, though it also makes for a hilarious moment when the villain tries to pace back and forth. The combat is also rather clunky. You press C to enter your combat stance, then you have to position yourself just right if the auto-target doesn't feel like working. Finally, you have to hold down Alt or Control and combine it with a movement key to throw a punch or a kick. And according to the manual, you can even do a super kick. Oh boy, I've waited so long for a game that will let me use sweet chin music on the bad guys! Okay, I got my Shawn Michaels Bear, Sexy Boy ready on the stereo. Let's do this!
I know I'm sexy.
That's not a super kick.
Landing on his feet.
That's a super kick. And where's my stereo? Alongside that incredible disappointment, even when you can get the combat to work for you instead of against you, the game just throws other mechanics in to piss you off. For instance, if you're supposed to be the superior being, why do you get killed in about 3 to 4 hits, but it takes nearly double that just to kill the weakest enemy? I mean, seriously, I have lost count of the times that I died in this fucking game. And then the puzzles. God, the puzzles! They are so damn cheap! I mean, I had to look at a strategy guide to figure out 90% of these things. I mean, look at that. I mean, what the hell am I even doing here? How the hell am I supposed to know which one works and which one doesn't? I didn't! I had to look online. I can't even figure out how anyone's supposed to beat this fucking game without guessing. And the bomb puzzle. Just the bomb puzzle. This is the single cheapest section of any game I've ever played in my life. I mean, it runs on a fake timer for one thing, and yes, I checked. The timer will only specifically change when you hit certain areas, and it forces you to look at it for several seconds, wasting even more time. God knows why they thought that was a good idea. And then, if you don't set it down in just the right spot, you're dead. And then, even when you do set it down in the right spot, you have to pray to the random number god that the controls will work properly for once, so you can get the hell out of there, and you won't remain an inch too close to the blast, and die even though you thought you were clear. And furthermore... Oh god. I'm turning into Spoonie. I didn't want this. I wanted to be a nice guy. I wanted to review games fairly. I didn't want to sit here and complain constantly about them. Why didn't you love me, Mommy? Oh, 3 Days Grace. Only you understand. But I don't want to do it anymore. I'm a failure. I can't do anything right. Thanks. I needed that. Okay. Back to the game. So, despite that little freakout I had, there is one fight that is so awesome, it almost redeems this game. It's you one-on-one with the Cyborg Raptor. Yes, you heard me right, a Cyborg Raptor. Somewhere in this world, someone had the thought that somehow one of the most terrifying animals ever to live needed cyber enhancements. You have to wonder how they came up with that. Just think about it. We clone the dinosaurs. We'll make millions. Didn't someone already try that? And fail? Oh, if you'll just put up some, cheap electrical fences that can be easily disabled because they rely entirely on one grid. Brilliant! We'll call it Cretaceous Zoo. But now that I think about it, kids these days don't want to see just boring old dinosaurs mindlessly slaughtering each other. They want flash. They want excitement. They want cyborg dinosaurs? That's it! And I think I know just the right dinosaur to test this. Yeah. I'm German. I can't believe I let you talk me into this! During the marketing campaign for this game, it bragged up how it had a production on the level of a movie. So the story has to be decent, right? Oh. You play an amnesiac who wakes up in a base where all sorts of sick experiments are being conducted, and you must figure out who you are, why you're a cyborg, and escape before the planet explodes. Sure, the plot's a little simplistic, but at least it has promise, and then it decides to pull a complete U-turn by telling the entire backstory in gigantic blocks of text. And they also tie into the puzzles, and oh god! Save me, live action me! You got it! Entering snark mode in 3, 2, 1. I'd just like to ask if the writers have ever heard of the term show don't tell. No? Back to you, voiceover me. And do you remember that sequel I told you about? Well, that was supposed to come out not long after this, but because of the whole cancelled thing, it never did. So the game ends on a stupid, to be continued! Summary time! Overall, despite still being technically sound, this game falls short in every other category, with a bland and boring story and very, 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 not to mention very frustrating gameplay. I wouldn't recommend this game to anyone who doesn't have about 50 monitors they can break. So until next time, I'm the Baron of Beanies, and I'm going to be looking at a game that isn't more painful to play than jumping into a cactus patch. We crossed that river with no problem, didn't we, Herr Michaels? I'm sorry I didn't share any of my liver best with you. The invasion was going so well I forgot about feeding my berry friend.